A ruling pen is my go-to tool for applying fine stripes to my paintings. Some projects have just a touch of pinstriping that helps frame the subject matter, such as on this lemon box, on the pansy box. I have a double stripe right here, a green and a lavender, and then another double stripe at the edge. The Just Ducky box picks up the stripe to repeat some of the colors in the Easter eggs. It's used as framing on top of the box and used to carry over some of the design colors and design elements from the top of the box on the sides. Here on the autumn box, we see the framing here and the framing on the front of the box. On the Santa, we have an outer frame and a portion of the inner frame that is broken by design elements. Some striping is also used on the side of the piece to repeat color and repeat some of the striping element from the front surface of the piece. And on this Santa box, it's used as a framing, which also connects some corner design elements. Other projects use the pinstriping more extensively to add color and design to portions of a piece that are secondary in importance to the focal area. This Christmas project is an example of that, where I have applied a plaid design to all of the letters, and the pen has been used for the gold in the plaid. This drawer from a small cabinet is another example of more extensive pinstriping used to decorate secondary surfaces on a piece. The same latticework design was also used on the side panels of the cabinet. The supplies you will need to do striping with a ruling pen are the ruling pen itself, a palette knife for thinning the paint and loading it into the ruling pen, a raised ruler. I use a corkback metal ruler, but you could use a ruler that is wooden with the metal strip in between two thicknesses of wood, or if you don't have either of those, you could tape or glue pennies or nickels onto a ruler to raise it off the surface. Brushes for cleaning the pen, an old stiff toothbrush, or a small round spiral brush. Acrylic paint for pulling the stripe. Normally this would be a color from your design, and a practice surface. The ruling pen consists of two metal blades that screw into a handle. On the top of a pen is a small screw that determines the width of the stripe. It pulls the blades together, makes it wider if you loosen it. And this is where the paint is loaded into the pen. I normally use acrylic paints for applying the ruling pen stripes. The exception to that would be if I am applying a stripe to a watercolor. I might use a watercolor pigments. If I have done an oil painting and want to apply striping somewhere on that project, I will mix acrylic paints to match whatever color I'm picking up from the painting, because the oil stripes just take far too long to dry. Proper paint consistency is the key to the successful use of a ruling pen. The paint must be thin to a good flowing consistency, but must also retain some body. Each acrylic paint will demand a different amount of thinning according to the properties of that paint, whether it's a thicker color, a thinner color, or perhaps a metallic color. I like to put my paint on a Stay Wet palette, and here I have squeezed out a light gray, and I pick up just a little bit of water on a palette knife and thin the paint slightly. I'm not going to thin it too much until I have tested it in the pen. When you load the pen, you're going to pick up the paint with the palette knife and load it into the open side of the pen, and then take a paper towel and wipe the flat surfaces, and you can see the paint in the point of the pen. Next, test your pen on your practice surface to see if the paint is the proper consistency and the line width is what you want. You can see where I've been testing my pen a little bit. And if it is the proper width and consistency, lay your ruler on your surface on whatever line you have previously marked. Rest the flat side of the pen against the ruler at about a 45-degree angle. Get a running start so that you don't hesitate, and pull your stripe. When you get to the end of the area that you're striping, lift off the pen immediately so that you don't get any hesitation. This actually lays down a small bead of paint, so pull the ruler away from the stripe. If you have several parallel lines, you may do those while that stripe is still wet. But intersecting lines or lines that cross, such as in the plaid that I showed you on the Santa Claus, you must wait just a little while and give that bead of paint time to dry. Now, while I'm talking, this is a good time to show you this. I pulled a little quickly right here and the stripe thinned out. There's an inconsistency. The surface texture determines how fast or how slowly you must pull the pen. You cannot pull really quickly on a rough surface, and this is a paper that has been base coated with an acrylic paint. It's a little absorbent, so I pulled just a little too quickly while I was talking there. It also sometimes will make your stripe skip if you pull too quickly on a rough surface. I'll now do another stripe and pull it a little more slowly. There we go. And that's a much better speed for this particular surface. Another thing to remember is that you don't put any pressure on the pen. That could cause some of the surface paint to build up in the point of the pen, and if that happens, your paint is not going to flow. As you're working through the day, if you are working on a piece that has a lot of striping on it, such as the plaid or the lattice work design that I showed you that I used on many surfaces, the acrylic paint may dry right up inside of the pen, and that can also impede the flow. So you might occasionally have to take your little brush and put the pen in the water and clean those areas out. Toothbrush, I can get up in there better. I'm trying not to get water up as far as the screw mechanism in the pen, but anytime that pen has gone into water, if I'm going to continue to use it, I'm going to take paper towel and dry it and tap it on the paper towel to be sure that I get all of the water out of it. If there's water up in here, it might bleed down into your paint and cause a blob on your stripe. At the end of a session where I'm using the pen, I do take the pen and open it a little bit wider and thoroughly clean the blades, usually with water. If water won't get it, you can use a little alcohol or the Brush Magic by Deco Art. Then I will again dry the pen and I will leave it out for a while and let it dry thoroughly before putting it back into its case. I often joke with my students that I own every striping tool known to man, but I always go back to the ruling pen, particularly when I want something a little more precise than a brush stripe. The ruling pen is easy to use. It takes a little bit of practice, but not much. It's easy to clean, and it gives a variety of line widths, all with one tool. With a little bit of practice, I think you'll also enjoy using it.